Hello everyone and welcome once again to I've Been Playing. Today we're talking about Black Mirror. No, not the television series. And no, not the bit of the television series that tried to be a game, kind of like those interactive YouTube videos that were going around like I don't know how many years ago. Specifically, we are talking about the 2017 reimagining of an earlier game from, I believe, the early 2000s. In essence, this is an adventure game, another point-and-click adventure game like last week. Although it is less point-and-clicky than it used to be, and also is less point-and-clicky than the Agatha Christie game we talked about. It has that thing where instead it's adapted so you walk up to something and there's an interactive button prompt once you get close enough. The basic story of Black Mirror is that you play as David Gordon, and you come back to your ancestral family home in Scotland because your father has passed away quite dramatically, and you now kind of come back to take over the family home that your father took you away from when you were very young because you lived in India, from the sounds of it, most of your life, if not all of your life. But once you get there, you want to unravel not only the mystery of, your father's death, but also the family history, and there's a bunch of ghosts. It's a ghost story. Essentially, it's a ghost story. It borders on horror. I would say that it never quite gets that scary. But you can see visions around the house, similar to what your father did when he was there previously. And the whole reason that he was thought to be insane, because of course he was. Now, the story itself is quite intriguing, and that's as much as I want to give you of kind of the basic setup, at least, of the story without spoiling anything that happens in the game, because that is genuinely the most interesting part of the game. The rest of the game has some problems. The main one that's causing me issue is the movement. Because it's so bad. I don't think my controller has as much controller drift as this game seems to think my controller has, because every time I walk or switch rooms, I start walking off to the right whether I want to or not. I also spent a good 5 to 10 minutes walking in and out and in and out and in and out of the same door because the direction you move is linked to what room you're in and the camera angle of the room. So, if you're walking, say, pushing the joystick up in one room and then switch and it switches around. So every time I went through this door, I would end up spinning around on the spot and going back into the other room because the way the doors were set up were opposite to each other, and so the game assumed that because I was holding the thing down the same direction, but the camera had switched, that I wanted to change direction, and that was not the case. The main reason this is such a big problem is that there is a loading screen every single time you walk from one area to another one. Every single time you walk through a door, every single time you walk through a loading area, instead of smooth transitions. There are no smooth transitions, it's all loading screens, and those loading screens take far more time than they should. So navigating is just an absolute pain. It also has the problem that some of these games can tend to do, in that if you want to interact with something, you have to be facing the very specific direction that the game wants you to face, and because of that controller drift I mentioned earlier, sometimes I'll be in the middle of a button prompt where I have to hold it, and he'll just wander off and it'll stop, even when it's almost there. So there have been several times I've had issues with that. That clearly is some kind of issue with my controller, but there's a little bit of issue with the game there too, because it's not that bad in any other game. So I don't know why it's so bad in this one. There's also a lot of graphical things, like the character models don't look that great. It's a 2017 game, but it's just not that pretty. The animations are not great. A lot of this is cutscenes, and they're not any better. Also, the main character's eyes swivel weirdly in his head, so there will be many, many times where, first of all, the characters don't look at each other when they're talking to each other, which is just weird. But also his eyes will just swivel and they'll be completely white for the majority of the cutscene or just anything, and it's really bizarre. It's not meant to be like that. It's not meant to be weird, it just is. The environments themselves also look pretty bad. They're almost like they're glittering because the textures or the models don't fit together right. So sometimes the floor will just disappear. I've had that a couple of times. But there's also just very clear lines where things are supposed to be connected and they're not quite connected, which is not good. There have also been some very, very, very pixely shadows, like very badly pixelated. And I don't know why. Again, I realize that probably this isn't a super high budget game, but it is from 2017, and it's not pixel art, so I don't know why the shadows are so bad sometimes. Like I said though, the story is interesting enough, and it seems to be fairly short. I'm not quite done with it yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm close to the end, and I've only been playing for 3 hours tops. So if you can get past all of the technical stuff, it's probably worth it for the story. The problem is that sometimes the technical stuff is so hard to get past that it kind of detracts from anything that's happening. And that's what I think of Black Mirror. Have you played it, or the one it's based off of? Let me know down in the comments down below, and actually I think I might play it eventually because I think I own them. So, well, we might play that eventually on a Wednesday, you never know. If you enjoyed this, leave a like. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. I do these and all sorts of other stuff on my channel that you can check out. I hope to see you next time.